All right, guys, we are back in my garage for another video, and I was talking to myself the other day, like all of us do, and I was thinking about how Toyota has done an amazing job with the Supra, and they have honestly proven to other OEMs that it is possible to make sports cars in the modern day and age if you plan out things properly. They had a really good strategy that I genuinely believe from the get-go they knew exactly what they wanted to do. They executed to it and allowed the car to live a very good and long life, even though now it's slowly on its way out, which is unfortunate because it feels like in the next 5 years, we won't have anything other than 911s and Corvettes to consider if you're looking at a sports car. But I feel like if a lot of OEMs would just follow Toyota's footsteps with how they treat their modern enthusiast cars, it would make it possible for us to see a lot more of these vehicles be successful in the future. So I'm going to share my point of view in this video. Let's go ahead and talk about it, and hopefully you guys find this video useful. Now, before we dive into this, I'm curious, what sports car would you guys want to see come back? Is there anything you would be excited about? A vehicle platform that you think should make a return, or maybe a company that you think should make a sports car? You think they could do something really exciting? Leave a comment down below. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. But let's go ahead and dive into this. So yes, we're going to be focusing on Toyota and the Supra now that it's on its way out. We're in pretty much the last year of production of this car, but I think they did a really amazing thing with it. And there are a couple different reasons why it was as successful as it was. The first thing is I believe they do a great job of being humble and working with somebody else. They have no problem with partnering with other companies that have technology they want to use to build a vehicle that gives their customers what they're looking for. Besides the Supra, of course, we can't forget about, just over a decade ago, they released the FRS and BRZ, which was their Toyota vehicle, but with a Subaru drivetrain. So it had a boxer engine, Subaru transmission, everything that you would be more familiar with in a WRX or something like that. But they put it in a rear-wheel drive lightweight platform and kind of tried to reimagine what the 86 would be in modern times. And so, they called it the FRS, and then eventually Scion died off. And so now they call it the GR86. And it's kind of interesting because I don't know if I'm just not close-knit to those circles, but I don't really hear anybody saying that it was like sacrilegious to the 86 name to use this Subaru drivetrain and stuff like that. But everybody seemed to like that car. I mean, it was underpowered, it wasn't very fast, but it was cheap, it handled really well, and it allowed you to do a lot of different things. So you saw these cars at car shows, you saw them at track days, you saw them for people just daily driving to work. It was an extremely capable car that allowed people to have fun with driving the way that they were used to. And so again, now with the Supra, Toyota partnered with BMW and produced another car that kind of reinvented an older platform. And that is something that is super key here. I think if a lot of other companies would consider this and kind of focus on what their bread and butter is and what they can leverage from other companies, it would allow them to create some nice combination vehicles that could really transcend into the future. So I'm hoping that other companies will, kind of take a play from their book and try something like that in the future, but time will tell. For now, Toyota is definitely the king of that. Now, of course, once they got the idea locked in and everything set up, they did not show all of their cards. I absolutely 100% believe that every single year they did something different and they had that planned from the beginning. Because let's think about it. When it first came out, it was pretty humble. It was a little underpowered compared to the BMW counterpart, automatic only, pretty straightforward car, just something to enjoy as it was. And then the second year, what did they do? They immediately gave it a 60 horsepower bump. They immediately gave it a lower compression engine, a much more capable vehicle that even a common driver could tell the difference just getting behind the wheel. 60 horsepower is nothing to turn your head at. That is something extremely noticeable. And so now the car has so much more power, more people are interested in it. And not just, again, regular daily drivers, but people that are looking at modifying it in the aftermarket see it as a more capable platform out of the box as well. So these cars were selling like crazy. And Toyota continued with that philosophy. Every year something new came out. They had the B48 version, so now they've got, a cheaper option for people to get into Supras. They came out with the manual transmission, so you had an option for people that were more interested in that kind of driver engagement. They always had something new that every year they were able to change things up until, the current times where we've got the lightweight Evo and the final edition to kind of wrap things up for the Supra. The other thing is they didn't do it like BMW with their M cars, right? They don't just have a bunch of limited edition CS and CSL models and stuff that they overcharge a lot of people for. They kept the price relatively the same. Yes, dealers would try to gouge you, but I feel like pretty quickly they would be brought back to reality and cars were really fairly priced for what they were. And not everybody's gonna wanna pay $100,000 for some red paint and a spoiler, right? So it was nice that they weren't only just, adding new features and options to the cars, but also keeping it reasonably priced, which nowadays a cheap sports car is anything under $100,000, I guess. But that's kind of what we were able to work with. So it was really nice for them to keep the cost competitive while offering all these new updated features. They also, I feel like, leaned into the rumor mill a little bit because since things were changing so much, people were always thinking, what if there's going to be an S58 version? What if there's going to be a Targa top? They just kept thinking of new potential future options that might be added, and that kept people excited about the car, that kept the conversation going. Again, I genuinely believe this was strategic on Toyota's part because they knew that sports cars are dying off and they need something to keep these cars exciting. So not only will people keep buying them, but people will consider upgrading them, flipping them, moving into every newer one that they can so that they can always take advantage of whatever the next big thing is. So really smart on Toyota's part, something that BMW slacked on a little bit and probably made the Z4 struggle more than it had to, but it seemed to work pretty well for the Supra. Another thing Toyota's really good at is not messing with stuff that isn't broken. And I have not seen anybody else sell the exact same car for as long as Toyota is willing to, except for maybe like the Nissan GTR, right? But even the GTR went through several different refreshes and stuff to kind of change it up. The Supra is basically the exact same car that you saw 7 years ago when it was released in 2019. And it's impressive to see that people are still excited about Toyotas, even if they have, a 10 or 15 year life cycle. And I do feel like Toyota went the right direction with that because I can imagine if a Supra came out with new bumpers or new lights or whatever to try to refresh the vehicle similar to what you see on other platforms, there would be a bunch of people that would hate it. No matter what, there would be somebody that's upset about it. And it didn't make people feel like they had to rush to get the car. It didn't feel like it was going to run out anytime soon. You always felt like, okay, I can wait and see what comes out next year, or, I can save up my pennies to trade in on a Supra. Now, of course, again, the car is going away, but you had a lot of time to kind of plan out what you wanted, make a build, work with a dealer and get it, and you knew you were going to get exactly what you wanted. It's a lot harder to do that with other OEMs, again, especially BMWs, because as soon as they get to like that 3-year mark, they just have to touch something. They have to change something, and I guarantee you a lot of people aren't going to like it. It's going to be a constant conversation about how the older one was better, blah, blah, blah. So it's kind of refreshing to see a company that just won't touch something that's broke. They add additional options, additional choices that you can make, but they don't take anything away from you. So I think that worked in their favor as well. And then probably the biggest thing is they were realistic about their expectations with the car. They planned out the vehicle. Like I said, they worked with another company and partnered up to make it exactly what they wanted. I feel like with other companies, sometimes things get pretty underwhelming once you actually see the final product. For example, the Nissan Z, if you're looking at that, you realize that yes, it's basically just a reskinned 370Z. Same thing for the S650. People wanted a new Mustang, but instead it's just an S550 with a bigger touchscreen. And the problem is they give you these cars that are obviously barely just an iterative update from the previous generation, but then they try to charge you, $15,000 more than what it used to cost. And I feel like a lot of people would not be mad if they really liked the S550 Mustang or the 370Z. They wouldn't be mad driving that same car with maybe an updated engine and a little more performance. So overcharging for a new platform that has a lot of stuff that people don't necessarily want, costs a lot more, weighs a lot more, and is a much more polarizing project, is going to make it harder to sell. And so I think a lot of these cars, again, are going to be going away. They're going to probably have to cut their life cycle short with whatever they had originally projected, because it just doesn't really sell like they expected it to. Whereas I feel like the Supra did exactly what it was supposed to do. It's now going over 7 years in production, which they might not have known if it would be possible, but they did a great job making it last. So those are my recommendations. If any company wants to try to bring a new enthusiast car that isn't going to be over $100,000, something that people that want to enjoy it on the track, enjoy it at car shows, just driving around town, take it on date nights, give us something with 2 doors and a fun drivetrain that is going to be enjoyable for the enthusiast. I think just doing those simple things will help make sure that it is successful. I don't know how much longer we have to try to enjoy this stuff, as obviously the whole landscape of automotive is changing, but Toyota definitely is on the right track. Now, I don't know about the new GR-GT. That's going to be pretty crazy, over $300,000 and stuff like that, but maybe they'll try to work to bring something else back for us in the future. Again, ignore the name, ignore whatever your preconceived notions are, and just think about a good car. And I think everybody can agree that the Supra is a good car. So we'll see. Time will tell if anything else pops up in the future. Of course, I'll keep an eye on that and let you guys know whatever I hear. But for now, I think that's it for this video. So thank you guys for watching, and I hope this helps. And if you have any other questions or comments, leave them down below.